Hello everyone and welcome to TVS News at 5. I'm Douglas Elliott and let's begin with our top story. In a landmark move, the COVID-19 Immunization Task Force Sarawak, or CITF Sarawak, has allowed the use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine to complement the immunization program in the state. Just like in KL and Selangor, the vaccine will be offered on a voluntary basis.
This decision follows the detailed assessment by the Sarawak COVID-19 Vaccine Advisory Group, or SCOVAC, who is tasked to review the current development of the COVID-19 vaccines. The vaccine will be supplied to Sarawak by National COVID-19 Immunization Task Force and will be offered to eligible population on a voluntary first-come, first-served appointment basis. Separate designated vaccination centers will be set up for this purpose and it will be announced at a later date. Earlier, an online survey found that 69.4% of respondents were in favor of giving Sarawakians the option of being vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine, while 52.9% of the respondents said they would actually like to receive the AstraZeneca shot.
Right. Intensive care unit beds in Sarawak is at breaking point with 4 major hospitals in the state at full occupancy, said the State Health Director, Dr. Chin Zin Heng. Thus, he urged everyone to play a role in the fight against COVID-19 in order to reduce the number of hospital admissions.
In a statement, Dr. Chin said that Sarawak and the country as a whole was now in crisis, adding that the state is now at a tipping point as healthcare is overwhelmed and appealed Sarawakians to stay at home. At present, there are 92 ICU beds in all major Sarawak hospitals and that each bed is used for 10 days on average. Dr. Chin added, without cutting the transmission, 10 to 20% of positive cases would need hospitalization, while 5 to 10% needed ICU care.
And back in Kuching, a man was pronounced dead and a woman was found unconscious in a car at a commercial center in Batukawa on Monday. In the 6:37 p.m. incident, the duo was found motionless inside a parked vehicle and the police are yet to figure out the motive.
Both victims were extricated by firefighters from the Batu Lintang fire station. Acting Palawan District Police Chief DSP Lim Jiao Xiong, when contacted, ruled out foul play involved in the case. Initial investigations revealed that the 38-year-old woman was given early treatment by Emergency Medical Rescue Services Unit, or EMRS, before she was rushed to the Sarawak General Hospital. The victim is currently placed at the hospital's emergency unit. Meanwhile, the deceased, identified as 39-year-old Vong Ding Lian, was pronounced dead by paramedics summoned to the scene. Lim pointed out that the post-mortem can only be carried out once the COVID-19 result is released.
Sarawak matriculation students in West Malaysia and Labuan were touched and thankful to the Sarawak government for arranging their return journeys to the state between May 11th and May 14th. With the Movement Control Order, or MCO, re-implemented in the country until June 7, journey back home has become difficult due to interstate travel ban in place. Here's what the students have to say.
One of the matriculation students from Selangor, 19-year-old Veronica Ania Anderson, reminded everyone to always remain vigilant in efforts to combat the COVID-19 pandemic.
Aku berharap naga kita semua, kita jaga pengerai diri, serta bantu freelance kita yang ngerekai penyakit COVID-19 tu. Engau tu, aku meri selamat hari gawai, selamat hari raya, ngagai balakaban kenyambut.
Meanwhile, for Louisa Garanting, even though the 14-day quarantine is compulsory upon arrival in Miri, she is grateful that students can return during the festive period and celebrate with their families at home once they had completed their quarantine period.
Pelajar bukai kena ulai-ulai, aku harap ke kita sentiasa bersabar. Dan harap ke kita seruran berandau nanya ke berita sudah kita sebili hari menua din, hari media maya. Harinya diri kita diri sebili oleh mereka penguat agar kita kena kita tajakkan pergi kita jauh hari diri pangan diri. Lalu kawal kita diri sebili mega akan makin erat.
As for Kansasa Augustine Kwet, she's thankful with the arrangements made by the state government and Sarawak volunteers in helping them to return home safely despite the many challenges.
Aku berasa gagati laban boleh pulai ngagai menua Sarawak. Aku kak merik terima kasih ngagai pihak matrikulasi serta pihak Sarawak Volunteer laban udah nulung student Sabah Sarawak pulai ngagai menua dari empu. Tajapan mayuh cabaran ke diasai ke kami bakal flat cancel, flat delay. Tapi Sarawak Volunteer serta pihak matrikulasi nulung dari segi nyedia ke tempat diau serta nyedia ke pemakai serta nganjung kami nyaga kami ba airport sampai kami selamat sampai ba Sarawak.
Previously, Rumah Sarawak with Sarawak volunteers had arranged the return trip of 952 Sarawak matriculation students in the peninsula and Labuan.
Hello there and welcome back. Now, with its interesting and unique special effects to create creative short videos, TikTok is no longer a stranger and a source of fame to many people. While teenagers would mostly share their routines for entertainment purposes, the app proves to be an excellent platform for independent preachers to spread religious content. And interestingly, it attracts a high number of viewers to the extent of being featured on its For You page.
45-year-old preacher Ahmad Dasuki Abdul Rani now has 743,000 followers on TikTok, which he optimally uses to reach out to young Muslims. He said the COVID-19 pandemic had somehow restricted face-to-face communications and religious events, and preachers need to be smart in using available medium and technology for knowledge transfer. On another note, preachers who also use TikTok as a platform shared that there's nothing wrong with using social media to preach, as they are not just for entertainment purposes, they can also be used to share useful information and knowledge to society.
And after postponing its summit twice, the World Economic Forum has cancelled its 2021 annual meeting entirely amidst the raging pandemic. The event is scheduled to be held in Singapore in August.
The Swiss-based organization blamed the cancellation on the pandemic, pointing to the uncertain travel outlook, the varying speeds of the vaccination rollout, and what it called the tragic circumstances unfolding across geographies. Every year, government leaders, CEOs, and the heads of civil society converge in Switzerland to discuss economic, environmental, social, and technological issues. The pandemic situation in Europe had forced it to move the summit from its usual venue in the Swiss town of Davos to Singapore. The World Economic Forum's big meeting was originally scheduled for mid-May in Singapore, but pushed back to August. Singapore has in recent days imposed some of the tightest restrictions ever since it exited a lockdown last year. The next summit will instead take place in the first half of 2022. It was due to return to Davos next January, but the organization said on Monday an assessment of the situation will determine its next location and date.
Gaza's hospital, already struggling to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, are being stretched further as a conflict with Israel erupted last week. Medics say they are now fighting on two fronts.
More than a week into fighting, Gaza's doctors are battling to keep pace. At the biggest health facility, Shifa Hospital, the number of intensive care beds has been doubled to 32, as the toll of those wounded from the conflict mounts.
الجهاز الصحي الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة منهك منذ قبل الاجتياح الإسرائيلي على قطاع غزة وقلب الحرب على غزة. هناك كانت جائحة كورونا ما يزيد عن عام تقريبا كان يعاني من اشتدادها وهذه أثرت على العمل الطبي بمجمله في قطاع غزة. والآن وزارة الصحة تحارب على جبهتين، جبهة الكورونا في مجال، والجبهة الأخرى وهي الأصعب الآن اللي هي الاجتياحات والإصابات والمصابين في مجمع الشفاء الطبي وفي مستشفيات قطاع غزة.
Like the rest of the healthcare system, the 750-bed hospital faced shortages of medicines and equipment before fighting erupted on May 10th. Fuel for generators that power Gaza's hospitals is also running out. Medics blame the shortages on the blockade by Israel. However, Israel says its blockade does not aim to stop medicines or other humanitarian supplies. Palestinians say 201 people have been killed in Gaza since the fighting started, with hundreds more wounded by shrapnel or hurt by collapsing buildings.
And as cases fall around the United States, its President Joe Biden announced on Monday that he will send at least 20 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to other countries by end of June. And this marks the first time the United States is sharing its vaccine authorized for domestic use.
Today, for the first time since the pandemic began, pandemic cases are down in all 50 states. First time. That's right. We'll share these vaccines in the service of ending the pandemic everywhere. And we will not use our vaccines to secure favors from other countries. We'll work with COVAX, the international organization set up, and other partners to ensure that the vaccines are delivered in a way that is equitable and that follows the science and the public health data.
Biden announced that his administration will send doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines on top of the 60 million AstraZeneca doses he had already planned to give to other countries. Unlike others, AstraZeneca's shot is not yet authorized for use in the United States. The United States has administered more than 272 million COVID-19 vaccine doses and distributed more than 340 million. With nearly 60% of U.S. adults having gotten at least one shot, it is well ahead of many nations which are desperate for more vaccines and struggling to control COVID-19 outbreaks. Biden has been under global pressure to share U.S. vaccines, but insisted that he had to first get the pandemic under control at home.
And that's all the time we have for News at 5. Be sure to tune in to Nightline, 11:30 p.m. with Cheryl Shamanato. Once again, I'm Nicholas Elliott. Have a good day, and thanks for watching.